Welcome aboard, applicants. All right, I thought we would begin with a general bar exam question, July 2017, question number 1. So with all of our essay questions, you know where to begin? Absolutely. The call of the question at the bottom of our essay. It's down here. It says, what are Hal's and Wanda's rights and liabilities, if any, regarding 1, the condo discussed, 2, the motorcycle discussed, 3, the camper van discussed, and 4, the A1 bank account discussed. Answer according to California law. Making sure now we're answering those particular calls. We're going to put down the items that are of concern. The condo, question mark. Number 2, let me bring this down here so we got it on the same page. Number 2, that the motorcycle. 3, the camper van. And number 4, the A1 bank account. And we also want to make this question more addressing our call as well. We want to say Hal and Wanda's rights and liabilities, if any, regarding, but we want to make that Hal and Wanda's rights and liabilities. So we're probably what we're going to come up here and do. Hal and Wanda's rights and liabilities concerning, and then make sure we spell this right here. I'm going to copy and paste this so that our header addresses the complete call, not just it addresses the entire call. Let's put it like that. Okay. Now, we have to read our question now because that'll give us some clues to what area of law we're dealing with. Okay, let's start from the top. Wanda, a successful accountant, and Hal, an art teacher, who are California residents, married in 2004. After their marriage, Wanda and Hal deposited their savings into a joint bank account they opened at Main Street Bank, from which Wanda managed the couple's finances. Each month, Wanda would deposit some of her earnings into an individual account she opened in her name at A1 Bank without telling Hal. In 2010, Hal inherited $10,000 and a condo from an uncle. Hal used the $10,000 as a down payment on a $20,000 motorcycle, borrowing the $10,000 balance from lender who relied on Hal's good credit. Hal took title to the motorcycle in his name alone. The loan was paid off from the joint bank account during the marriage. At Wanda's insistence, Hal transferred title to the condo worth $250,000 into joint tenancy with Wanda to avoid probate. The condo increased in value during the marriage. On Hal's 40th birthday, Wanda took him to dealer and bought him a used camper van for $20,000 paid out of their joint bank account, titled in Hal's name. Hal used the camper van for summer fishing trips with his friends. In 2016, Wanda and Hal permanently separated, and Hal filed for dissolution. Just before the final hearing on the dissolution, Hal happened to discover Wanda's individual account, which contained $50,000. Now, what are Hal's, Wanda's, and rights, if any, regarding the condo, the motorcycle, the camper van, and the A1 bank account? Well, now we have a pretty good idea what area of law we're dealing with here. I would have to make an educated guess and say we're dealing with community property. So with community property, we slam down our shopping list here, which is, so we have S for source, A for actions, P for presumptions, and then second P is for the priority of rights, and then we have distribution. So we're going to make sure to put this underneath each of our areas so that we're taking into consideration every available topic for scoring purposes for our calls of the question here. Thank you so much for your patience with me. All right, here. Okay. All right. And we also want to introduce our community property question with a little intro paragraph. We're going to say that California is a community property state. Okay. And all community property is what? Acquired, or so say all property, excuse me, thank you so much. acquired during the marriage through the skill, efforts, and time of either spouse is considered community property, period. Separate property is all, and we want to make sure to give our list here. One, it's all property acquired before the marriage. Number two, all property acquired through gift, bequest, device, or descent. And number three, all rents, issues, and profits from separate property is considered part of the separate property. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now that we've got that in play, so we have our rule statement and the fact that we recognize California as a community property state out of the way. Let's source let's source the condo here. Now coming on up. We first see that Wanda, a successful accountant, and Hal, an art teacher, who are California residents. Okay, this is setting the stage of where Wanda and Hal are domiciled. So we now know that if everything holds, it'll be according to the community property principles. They married when? They married in 2004 or 2008. So they're already giving us the fact that their marriage is in 2008. It's not an issue, okay? And even if you were to raise it, just recognize that the marriage began in 2008 and then move on, okay? Now after their marriage. So they're even recognized this yet again for us, okay? Wanda and Hal deposited their earnings into a joint bank account. Now this is interesting. After marriage is a big indicator because it's indicating that what is it that goes into the joint bank account would be technically community property because it was acquired during the marriage, okay? Now they open the joint bank account that they open at Main Street Bank. We want to highlight this so that we're keeping this in mind. If anything were to be coming from this, that would also be according to the exchange rule that even though it might change in form, it hasn't changed in its character. Now from which Wanda managed the couple's finances. Again, this is tending to point to the fact too that Wanda might have a financial skill that possibly Hal does not, and that's another thing too for the equal management and control of the community estate. That in the equal management control of the community estate, both spouses have to be equal, number one, and number two, that they have to share a fiduciary duty to one another and keeping each other up to date according to finances, which is probably what this is indicating as well. We'll see. Each month, Wanda also deposited some of her earnings. Okay, here it is. Wanda deposited some of her earnings into an individual bank account she opened in her name alone at A1 Bank. Now, this is the thing about this. What the first thing we're seeing is that Wanda is married after 2008. She is earning making some earnings during the marriage, and that she's depositing those earnings in A1 bank account, which would characterize our A1 bank account as what? Absolutely the community property, because what's going into the A1 bank account is indeed a community asset. So let's come out here and talk about that, or throw us down here underneath our A1 bank account. Okay, source community. We already talked about why, because it was acquired during the marriage. Now here's the thing that's interesting about this one. Without telling Hal, okay, this is the thing too about the equal management control. That's why underneath the A1 bank account, I would throw in an additional discussion right here about equal management control. Okay, and the other thing we're going to look at possibly is tracing through direct tracing. Why do I say that? And I'll show you here. excuse me, I should say title. Joint title bank account. Okay, now up here we're seeing that she put the account in her name right here. Okay, so that I would take care of that. Now we have addressed the A1 bank account. Okay, now whatever comes out of the A1 bank account, keep this in mind, would also be community property, because remember the exchange rule, even though it might change in form, it doesn't change in characteristic. Okay, now in 2010. Hal inherited $10,000. Okay, we know now that the $10,000 is what? A separate property asset because it's through a gift, bequest, or device or descent during the marriage. Okay, from is considered separate property. Now, so what did Hal do with that 10,000? And he also, excuse me, and a condo. So we now know it's $10,000 in a condo, are part of his separate property. So just to make a note of that. Okay, now Hal used the $10,000 as a down payment on a $20,000 motorcycle, borrowing the $10,000 balance from lender who relied on Hal's good credit. Now we're going to talk about the motorcycle. Motorcycle down here, right here. Okay, now first of all, the source is going to be separate property. Why do we say that? We want to make sure to note in our notes that it's coming from the $10,000 inheritance. Okay. Okay. Now the other thing we're going to talk about now is that condo. Excellent spot on that. And that's through a bequest. Okay. Or I should say, excuse me, a device. Okay. So, or I should say, excuse me, you know what, I'll even just call it what they call here, inheritance. Thank you so much for your patience on that one. Okay, now, coming up here, we've taken care of the characterizing of the motorcycle for the most part now. Now, Hal used the 10,000 as a down payment on a $20,000 motorcycle, borrowing the 10,000 balance from lender who relied on Hal's good credit. Now, this goes to the aspect about intent of the lender. And we're looking, what is it that the lender was looking at when they were making the additional 10,000 loan? They were looking at Hal's good credit. Now, what could be argued here, that Hal acquired that good credit during the marriage as a result of skill, effort, and time that he expended and thus it being a community asset. Okay. So, because it doesn't say that the lender was looking to the 10,000 as a reason for lending him the additional 10,000, it was looking for looking at Hal's good credit. Now, it's arguable that I'm gonna put a little argument here that it could be the community, but it's possible because of it's Hal's good credit. Okay. Let me take this out of here because I don't want to presume too much. Okay, right here, there it is. Okay, now he took title to the motorcycle in his name alone. We want to make sure to note that down here. That is title, which was Hal's name. Okay, now up here, the loan was paid off from the joint bank account during the marriage. Remember where we get the joint bank account up here? Right up here. This is where the Main Street bank account comes in. So what was it that technically is happening here? Well, it looks to me like we have community paying off, paying the principal on a separate property asset, which is what we calls the Moore Marsden analysis, okay, where they're buying into title. Okay, so what we would do at that point is look at the amount of that was paid in, which was 10,000 of the 20,000, which means 1/2 times the actual appreciation of the value of what the separate property asset is, which was technically here the motorcycle. Okay. Now, taking that into consideration there. Now, at Wanda's insistence, Hal transferred title to the condo. This is that down here underneath condo. We're looking at, okay, we're looking at something called transmutation at this point. And we want to make sure to not forget about that it's Wanda's insistence, okay? And we're looking to see if she has exercised her a superior advantage in terms of her financial prowess. Why do I say that? That she actually has managed the couple's finances. So not only does she have financial knowledge that maybe Hal does not have, but she also is a successful accountant, which means she also comes to the table with probably superior accountant skills. Okay, we want to make sure that we take that into consideration down here for another equal management control argument. Okay, now coming up here, so we got to transfer the title to the condo worth $250,000 into joint tenancy with Wanda to avoid probate. Now, joint tenancy here as well. We're going to look to joint tenancy would be that title would control. And therefore, under the joint tenancy aspect, what would happen is the right of survivorship would kick in rather than the equal amount of the community being shared between Wanda and Hal. Okay, excuse me. Now, the condo, excuse me, increased in value during the marriage. So we got to look at the appreciation of the condo. So we got, and that appreciation during the marriage would also be able to be split according to the community property principles between Hal and Wanda. Remember here, how much did it actually appreciate? Well, it increased in value. We know that it's worth $250,000, but we don't know exactly how much it appreciates. Whatever it appreciates beyond that, maybe that $250,000 would be then split 50-50 between Hal and Wanda. Now, on Hal's 40th birthday, Wanda took him to a dealer and bought him a used camper van for $20,000, paid out of their joint bank account again. So we're looking here down here at excuse me. They titled in it, and they titled in Hal's name. So we're looking at a gift possible presumption here for the camper, right here. So we're looking at source again. Where is this? Where is the source coming from? It's that joint bank account, which is also community. So we're going to say community. And remember here, we're taking a look at where we're going to be able to transmutate the community into what? Possibly a gift. But remember, we got transmutation, and then we've got gift presumption. And I want to show you something here. If the gift is a substantial gift, it needs to be in writing. If it's an insubstantial gift, it does not. Okay, right here we have the camper van for $20,000. The $20,000 considering whatever a successful accountant and how an art teacher would be able to, as a couple, bring in per year, during the marriage. In comparison to that, $20,000 would help us to determine whether or not this camper van $20,000 price tag is a substantial amount in comparison to the totality of the circumstances, which would be the marriage. Okay, now they also titled it in Hal's name alone, which also indicates intent. But we're going to put that. We are going to make sure we put that down there because it's a fact. Title, Hal's name. Okay. Now, over here, Hal used the camper van for summer fishing trips with his friends. Again, both parties are manifesting their intent that this indeed is a gift. So that adds more credence to our gift argument being to the camper van. Also, as we close the camper van and all of our assets here, we don't want to forget about bringing up distribution. So I want to make sure that we bring that up here. So we don't forget about it, I should say. Okay. Okay, and down here under the camper van, okay, and okay, equal manage. Okay, thank you so much. There we go. Okay, now going back up, finishing up our last paragraph here. In 2016, Wanda and Hal permanently separated. Ah, okay. We want to make sure we note that there was a permanent separation here. So looks to me like we could probably bring that up. I'm gonna bring that up down under the last one here. Legal separation. Okay. And remember, the legal definition of legal separation is that the parties physically separate with no intent of returning to the relationship. And looks here that took place. Let's see, 216. Yep. So now we have two. When we look at that Moore Marsden analysis, or when we look at other time rule based situations, we now have a 218 to 216 marriage. So we have an 8-year window of our 8-year marriage that we can use as a basis on which to do our time rule. Okay, now down here underneath, Hal and Wanda permanently separated, so we took care of that. And by the way, as we start exercising our essay skills, the more essays we're going to be doing, as we use a fact, we're going to highlight it, and we want to make sure that we're using all of our facts. Okay, that's good indicator that we've addressed everything is when every fact has been used. Okay, and Hal filed for dissolution, so we know that this definitely is a no intent to return to the former relationship fact. Just before the final hearing on the dissolution, again emphasizing that fact, Hal happened to discover Wanda's individual account, which contained what? $50,000. Now, her individual account, what are we talking about here? That would be the A1 bank account. So now we know where that goes to. Down here underneath the A1 bank account, which is absolutely where we have it. So I'm glad we put it there. Right here at Equal Management Control, we want to talk about that $50,000 that was found in the account that he finally figured out about. So don't forget about talking about the fiduciary duties that we were just talking about a few seconds ago. Okay, in our discussion, when we bring up our discussion, and that was right there. So going back, I think we've talked about everything. All right, I thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for more videos and more essays we're going to be going through. As we start strengthening our essay muscles, we'll be able to use more facts quicker, get to our issues in more efficient time. And remember, don't bring up that issue unless it's raised by the facts. Okay, thank you so much, and God bless.